All right. So the last thing that I always like to do, I don't know if you remember this from our last interview, but I usually end with a movie review. You had talked about The Wish Dragon, I believe, because you had just watched
Okay.
it with your daughter.
Okay.
So is there anything you've seen more recently that you'd like to talk about?
Oh my goodness, I don't even remember the last movie I saw.
I mean, do
And
you do you do you watch like any kind of TV shows at all? Like, what do you typically consume for entertainment besides wrestling, of
I
course?
read a lot. I read a
Okay.
lot.
Well, you know
So
what? You want to do a book review? We can do that instead of a movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the
So
last book you read you really enjoyed?
well, so I actually finished two books on Tuesday. I finished two books, so then I started new books since then. But there's this, my nonfiction reading preferences are not necessarily it's hard to review nonfiction because it's like
Yeah.
it's information, right?
Right.
And there's really good nonfiction books, but it's not necessarily up everybody's alley. Like there's this book that I just finished called First Principles and First Values, which is really good, but it's not necessarily it's not everybody's cup of tea. But if you're looking for a really good fiction book, I just finished Richard Towers' Bewilderment. Richard Towers wrote this book called The Overstory, which won a lot of was in all the top books of the year when it came out. I forget what year that was, but this book came out after that, and it's about a father who had his wife had passed away, and it's just him and his son. And his son has some mental health issues. And it's also like, how do you parent in this world where there's so many very clearly things that our society doesn't value, like like seeing our society not necessarily value the environment or the natural world or different or even appreciate that species are going extinct. And if you have a son or daughter or somebody who cares about that, how do you navigate that in this world, right? And seeing them care about it, but all the adults around them or the entire world doesn't seem to necessarily care, or that sort of thing. And it's dealing with this grief of losing your wife, and then managing a son who's also grieving the loss of his mother, and also grieving the loss of the environment as we see it, right? And so those sorts of things, and how do you navigate some of that? And it ended in a way that was really, really sad, but that also kind of sticks with you for a while. So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
But
It's really sad. You should totally read it.
yeah, but you know what? I feel like sadness.
It can be a good thing in stories. Like
Yeah,
it can make it
yeah.
poignant, you know?
Yes, it can propel you forward, and it can also make you appreciate the things that you have, right? And and so yeah, I found myself, so I read it, and typically after I read a fiction book, my immediate reaction is to okay, if I'm on a plane, I'll wait 10 minutes and then I'll start reading something else, right? I sat with it kind of for the rest of the night and didn't read anything the rest of the day. I finished it on the plane going to Dynamite last week, and then I didn't read anything new until the following day, which is unusual for me. So.
Wow. I'm out of curiosity, what was the book you just started?
Like I said, First Principles and First Values, and then
Okay.
yeah, so that's the one that I just started.
I thought you were saying that was one of the two you just finished.
No, I read multiple books at a time. And so the fiction book that I just started is called The Rosie Project by Graham Simsion. And so I'm always reading a nonfiction book, a fiction book, and then some sort of poetry, that sort of thing. So I'm typically reading 3 books at a time. So for example, my from the trip to London, I'll probably have to bring 5 or 6 books with me because
Wow.
it's a long flight. And so yeah.
Nice.
And like I said, I probably won't watch a movie. So yeah.